Some of the more common symptoms of MS are fatigue, pain, spasticity, muscle weakness, walking difficulty, cognitive difficulties, dizziness, sensory disturbances, bladder and bowel problems, and depression. In today's video, I'm going to share 6 tips that can help us manage these symptoms so we can live well with our MS. I've also created a list of these tips with resources that you can download and use to help you implement them. Check the link in the description for how to get your free list. Living with MS can be hard. It can be really, really hard. But there are things that we can do every day to help us on this journey and help us to manage our symptoms. We can set up our homes, our environment, and cultivate habits to help us make healthy choices along the way. These choices can be small, but little changes can add up to big benefits. You may have heard me say in previous videos that taking exquisite care of ourselves is a key part of living well with MS or chronic illness. But what exactly do I mean by that? In the Merriam-Webster dictionary, one of the definitions of exquisite is marked by flawless craftsmanship or by beautiful, ingenuous, delicate, or elaborate execution. Can we take care of ourselves with craftsmanship and elaborate execution? I think we can. Every day, we make choices with our diets and lifestyles that can support our health and well-being. Here are my top 6 tips to taking exquisite care of ourselves. Number 1, diet. Everything we eat has the ability to help us or harm us. Choosing the most nutrient-dense and unprocessed foods that we can to support our health is key. There are a number of studies showing that eating a more whole food plant-based diet can help us to manage our symptoms. In one of the studies, it showed that it could help improve up to 9 symptoms, including fatigue, pain, spasticity, muscle weakness, walking difficulty, dizziness, sensory disturbances, bladder problems, and bowel problems. And in another recent study, they found a low-fat plant-based diet showed significant improvements in fatigue. Oh, and as always, I will put links to the papers and studies I referenced today in the description below if you would like to check them out. I invite you to go through your kitchen today and get rid of any highly processed foods with ingredients that may be harmful, like high fructose corn syrups, sugars, white flours, trans fats, saturated fats, artificial flavors and colors, and preservatives. Instead, try to have whole, real foods on hand. Have a bowl of gorgeous, fresh fruit for snacks that are easy to see and grab. Fill the refrigerator with fresh vegetables for colorful, beautiful, and nutrient-dense salads. Make satisfying and inexpensive dishes that include whole grains and legumes that are rich in nutrients and fibers. Not sure how to implement more whole food plant-based meals into your diet? One of my favorite resources is Forks Over Knives. They have an awesome website and an app that's full of fantastic recipes and tips. Number 2 is exercise. Keeping our bodies toned, flexible, and strong can definitely help us to manage our symptoms. In fact, one study says that exercise may be the single most effective non-pharmacological symptomatic treatment for multiple sclerosis, and it's beneficial for numerous symptoms and deficits in MS. Exercise training should be prescribed early and often among those with MS. How much and what kind of exercise will benefit us? It can be variable depending on where we're starting from and what deficits we have. But in this paper that looked at the evidence around physical activity in people with MS, they recommend adults with MS who have mild to moderate disability need at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity 2 times a week and strength training exercises for major muscle groups 2 times per week. Meeting these guidelines may also reduce fatigue, improve mobility, and enhance elements of health-related quality of life. Anyone want less fatigue, better mobility, and better quality of life? The best kind of exercises to do? The ones that you like. If you really don't like walking on a treadmill, go out and walk in the woods. Or if you don't like running, maybe try a dance class to get your heart rate up. There are also some great physical therapists that specialize in MS that can be helpful too. Check out Dr. Gretchen Hawley, the MS Gym, and MS Workouts. Before we get to the next 3 tips, can I ask you to like the video and subscribe? This is important because it supports the channel and helps it to reach more people. Thanks so much. Number 3 is meditation and mindfulness. Stress plays a huge role in MS and our symptoms and how they present. Do any of you notice your MS symptoms flaring when you're stressed? Let me know in the comments below. I love to hear from my viewers. Past studies have found that 85% of MS exacerbations were associated with stressful life events, strongly suggesting a link between stress and disease course. The stress hormone cortisol is chronically high in people with MS. Cortisol modulates the immune system, and when we're continually exposed to high levels of it, our immune systems may not behave normally. In this paper on the benefits of meditation for people with MS, they state, MS is associated with a higher risk of depression, anxiety, stress, chronic pain, and fatigue, and stress has been shown to worsen MS course. Meditation has been investigated as a possible beneficial intervention for stress and symptom relief for people with MS. Meditation can help relieve symptoms. Meditation can also be a challenge for some people. If you find it challenging, I invite you to start small. Start by taking 10 mindful breaths before getting out of bed each morning, and do 10 more when you get into bed each night. There are also some wonderful apps that we can use to help us with our meditation and mindfulness practices, such as Calm, Insight Timer, Headspace, Aura, and the Chopra app. Number 4 is sleep. Sleep is like magic when it comes to managing our symptoms, and most of us are not getting enough sleep. In this paper from 2021, they state sleep disturbances affect up to 60% of persons with multiple sclerosis and are linked to several debilitating MS symptoms, including pain, fatigue, depressive symptoms, and cognitive dysfunction. When we sleep, our bodies and brains restore, heal, and flush out toxins. And when we're sleeping, our brains consolidate our memories and move them from the hippocampus to the cortex to help us remember things and improve our cognitive function. Also, when we sleep, our brains get flushed with cerebrospinal fluid, and it helps to clean out waste and plaques. Guidelines from the National Sleep Foundation recommend 7 to 9 hours of sleep each day for 18 to 64-year-olds and 7 to 8 hours a day for older folks. Are you getting enough sleep? Let me know in the comments below how many hours of sleep you're getting each night. Some things that we can do to help us get a good night's sleep are having a regular bedtime, keeping our rooms as dark as possible, keeping the temperature in our bedrooms around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius, no screens in the bedroom, reducing caffeine and alcohol, and avoid eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. Number 5 is taking supplements as needed. Addressing deficiencies and adding supportive supplements can help us to manage our symptoms too. I encourage you to work with your neurologist and a naturopathic doctor to get blood work done to check your levels and discuss symptoms to see which supplements may be helpful for you. I'm going to share some of the ones I take and how they may help with MS symptoms. This is not an exhaustive list, and you may find that there are others that may help with your symptoms. Please feel free to share them in the comments below. Low vitamin D levels have long been associated with developing MS, but it's also associated with fatigue, which is one of our more troubling symptoms, and it's one of the leading reasons people with MS leave the workforce. In this meta-analysis that looked at 5 studies on vitamin D and fatigue, they found a significant reduction in fatigue was perceived when vitamin D supplementation was compared with a control group, and their findings showed that the therapeutic use of vitamin D on fatigue in people with MS could be considered. I recently did a video on vitamin D and how we might be taking it wrong. I'll link it above and below if you'd like to check it out after this one. Vitamin B12 is another vitamin that may be helpful with our symptoms. Vitamin B12 deficiency can cause neurological symptoms that mimic those of MS, including muscle weakness, walking difficulty, cognitive dysfunction, and sensory disturbances. Yeah, no good. We definitely don't need to add symptoms to our MS because of a B12 deficiency. Up to 39% of the general population is B12 deficient. Eating an exclusively plant-based diet can cause B12 deficiency because it's found only in animal products, but there are a number of other causes. Some medications can cause it, such as metformin or proton pump inhibitors. It can be associated with other diseases like Sjögren's syndrome, pernicious anemia, and Crohn's disease. Gastric bypass surgery or bowel resections can also cause it, and it's more common in elderly people as we don't absorb it as well as we age. And even omnivores are becoming more B12 deficient in part due to modern farming practices. The animals produce B12 from cobalt that comes from the soil, and when we overfarm, the soil loses cobalt. Cobalt deficiency in soils can cause vitamin B12 deficiency in livestock, so it's a good idea for everyone to get their B12 levels checked. Supplementing with omega-3s may help with symptoms too. In an article released in 2023, they shared that omega-3s may help reduce symptoms of MS. DHEA, a lipid derived from DHA in omega-3s, may reduce immune T-cell responses and thus reduce MS-related inflammation. In tests done on the mouse model of MS, where they gave the mice high doses of omega-3s, they indicated that DHEA likely reduces inflammation and thus MS symptoms by reducing the number of pathogenic T cells in the nervous system. I am all for reduced inflammation and reduced symptoms. Next is turmeric. Turmeric has a compound called curcumin that has fantastic anti-inflammatory properties. In the mouse model of MS, experimental autoimmune encephalomyelitis, or EAE, researchers found this study supports studies that demonstrate that curcumin had a neuroprotective effect on the EAE-induced MS in mice. Furthermore, it emphasized the ability of curcumin to amend not only EAE-induced physical disability, but also EAE-induced cognitive impairments. Oh, well, hooray! Yes, it was on mice, but it's still very exciting, and turmeric is a very safe supplement to take. I recently did a deep dive into the benefits of turmeric, and I'll link that video above and below. If you'd like to check out the supplements that I talked about today, I will also leave links for those in the description below. Number 6 is medications. We can definitely use medications as needed. I'm not a doctor, so I can't give medical advice, but medications can be so helpful in managing our symptoms. I encourage you to talk with your doctors if diet and lifestyle changes are not helping with your symptoms. There's no need for us to suffer with symptoms that can be managed. I take the muscle relaxer baclofen for my spasticity, and it's really helpful. Living with symptoms of MS and chronic illness can be challenging, but there are things that we can do with diet and lifestyle changes and medication to help us manage the symptoms so that we can live well. See the link below for your free handout of these tips and some resources to help too. What changes will you make or have you made to help with your symptoms? Let me know in the comments below. To see more on living well with MS and chronic illness, watch these videos next. Please like and subscribe to my newsletter where I share more on living well with chronic illness and share some delicious recipes too. Until next time, be well.